Good morning, everyone. Lovely to see you all on this lovely day. It was unexpected. I came from Scotland, where it's all dark, dreary and rainy, which is pretty much every day, to be fair. So I was surprised. Should have brought my shorts, but I didn't today. So it's great. And it's a Saturday morning, and so it's remarkable to see so many of you here. You've got hundreds of things that you could be getting up to on a Saturday morning. Usually my Saturday morning spent with my son at his karate class, so missing that today, but Levi understands the importance of the pro-life movement, just like you. So thank you for being with us. And thank you for the commitment that you show to making abortion unthinkable. Elie Wiesel, the historian, academic, journalist, and most notably survivor of the Holocaust, once famously said, "The opposite of love is not hate, but indifference." But we all know that today. That's why we're here. Not just because we want to make a difference in the pro-life movement, because we know we have to make a difference. You know, that's actually the remarkable thing about the pro-life movement, and the thing that makes us stand out compared to other movements for change. We're the only movement for change made up entirely of people who don't want to advocate for rights for themselves and advocate, more rights for themselves. We want to advance rights for another underprivileged, underrepresented, voiceless group in society, the unborn. Each of us know that the greatest injustice of our times that we're facing is abortion. Each year, the United Nations estimates that 73 million abortions take place around the world. Closer to home, in 2021, 214, 256. I wanted to read that because each and every one of those abortions and lost lives is a tragedy. So last year, across this country, 256,000 abortions took place. Like I said, each and every one of them is a tragedy. But so is the fact that so many of our family members, friends, colleagues, and even people we go to church with who are indifferent, are silent. Today, that equates to 600 unborn lives lost to abortion, all in the name of choice. Ideas about choice and freedom and autonomy are central to the abortion narrative, central to the abortion industry thriving on that billion-dollar industry that they are. But the unspoken reality is that many women are forced or coerced into abortion or forced through circumstance, and that is unacceptable. And that's why today we've chosen to focus on that theme of coercion. It's relatively unknown. Obviously, a lot of you who are avid SPUC supporters will be getting a lot of mailings lately from Alethea, my colleague, about our work that we're doing around this. But we've chosen today to give special attention to that unrecognised form of abuse. According to ARCH, who many of you know, ARCH is the Abortion Recovery Care Helpline, they estimate that between 70 and 75% of their clients or callers identify coercion or force as a factor in what pushed them towards choosing abortion. I say choosing because, as I've said, coercion and force is involved in so many of those abortions. This year has been unprecedented, and I don't use that lightly because it is very overrated, that word. We used it so many times, so many things, but if you think about it, it really has in the last 18 months, especially in this country, as we've seen the last few days. Europe has seen a war. We've survived a worldwide pandemic, and in this country, I can't even remember how many prime ministers we've had. So maybe someone later can let me know if we have a new prime minister by the end of the day or next. I don't know. I've lost track, like I said. And on a pro-life point, we've seen some of the biggest and major changes to abortion law and policy in this country, and to the restriction of your freedoms as brave defenders of life. Most notably, obviously, we saw this week alone on Tuesday when abortion buffer zones were introduced around clinics, where people will be imprisoned for 2 years for simply offering women an alternative to abortion or offering to pray outside that abortion clinic. That's why it's so good to be here today among you, among friends. And it has been so long, like I said, with COVID and everything and lockdowns, etc. And so it's good to see so many of you here together. I know a lot of you have had early starts, and like I said, on a Saturday morning. And one of our speakers, keynote speakers, Greg Pike, who you'll be hearing from later, has come all the way from Australia, and I think it's about 8 o'clock, half 8, so at night. So well done, Greg. He's still awake. So I've not bored him too much yet, so that is good. That's good to hear. I'm someone, when asked if you want to hear the good news or bad news first, I always like to get the bad news out of the way. So I thought it'd be useful to just give a quick overview of what has been going on politically in this country, just to bring you up to speed. Most of you probably know more than I do, so if you know these things, then I'm sorry. And then I'll give you some of the good news, or the things that have been going well over the last 18 months in the pro-life movement. As I mentioned, the biggest change that happened this year and this week was the introduction of buffer zones around abortion facilities in this country, where people will be imprisoned for up to 2 years for offering help or praying outside an abortion facility. Sadly, that's not the only bill. We had a bill passed in Northern Ireland, the Northern Ireland Assembly, which is fortunately being challenged at the moment in the Supreme Court, so we await that judgment. And in Scotland, who seemed determined to push everything bigger and better than England can, as always, they are also looking at introducing abortion buffer zones. The other significant change over the last 18 months is obviously the fact that a woman can now have full DIY abortion at home, that they can have the chemical abortion pills at home without medical supervision, without even seeing a doctor, and just a telemedical consultation. But of course, we have a whole talk on that, and I'm going to go into all the details, and there's wonderful literature at the back of the room that you can pick up as well. We've also seen fresh attacks in the media, and also media attention around the threat of decriminalisation, which really brings home the idea that abortion could be pushed up to birth and for any reason. The other sizable change and movement is around, obviously, Northern Ireland, which we've been working tirelessly in for decades in Northern Ireland. Once again, in 2022, the Northern Ireland Secretary introduced new regulations to impose abortion on that region. We remain committed to keeping abortion out of Northern Ireland. Interestingly enough, the new regulations had to be introduced because of our judicial review that we took last year, because we exposed the vulnerability of those regulations, and so it allowed us to kind of stall the implementation of those regulations. And so that's why abortion isn't fully up and running yet within Northern Ireland. But like I said, by this point I've probably depressed you enough, giving you all the bad news. There are good things that are happening, things like this, and the wonderful work that you all do up and down the country. So like I said, one of the biggest pieces of good news is around the judicial review we have taken in Northern Ireland. So according to our estimates, by taking that and stalling the implementation of abortion in Northern Ireland, we've saved approximately 14,000 lives from abortion, because the Secretary of State in Westminster at the time, who was Brandon Lewis, wanted a service where they would have 6,000 to 8,000 abortions in that province each year. And by the fact that we've stalled it since 2020 is where we get that number from. So it's remarkable, and that's only possible because of the work of SPUC and also the members that we have that support us so generously. So thank you for that. Obviously, it'd be remiss not to mention the huge, momentous, as I said earlier, the judgment in the United States of America with the overturning of Roe versus Wade. And that, obviously, we have a different mechanism for passing laws and judgments here, and obviously our abortion regime was through an act of Parliament rather than through a court judgment. But it does have reverberations across the world, and of course within the United Kingdom. And we've seen that ourselves, obviously, in the UK, where we seem to have increased traffic from media wanting to catch us out and do hit piece after hit piece. So we can only thank those journalists for the media attention they're giving us and the coverage we're covering. One piece last week was particularly interesting. They decided to outline each and every vacancy that we have on our website for job opportunities. So as an aside, there's job vacancies. If anyone would like to look at them, please apply. I'm sure you've got plenty of experience and knowledge to apply to the pro-life movement. But I'd just like to also thank Sophie, that journalist, because basically she gave us free advertising space, and we all know times are tight, and so it's good that she gave us that free advertising space in her publication. So shout out to Sophie, thank you. This year, or even this month alone, we've seen the expansion of our Alma Mater Fund, which now is operating across the whole of the United Kingdom. And you'll be hearing from Margaret in a moment, who is the services coordinator for that. And for those that don't know, Alma Mater is a fund for university students who find themselves in difficulty while pregnant at university, and allowing them to continue with their studies and also be a mother. We've also been looking at other court cases. Obviously, we have a proud track record of leading the fight politically and within Parliament, but also we work at bringing legal cases, and that's why obviously this year as well, it was good to hear our good friend Dr. Dermot Carney, who won his case, who many of you know, who was able to then continue his work offering abortion pill reversal. I think where we are at now, it's a historic moment. We've had 55 years, this is the month, next week is the anniversary, and that'll be 10 million lives lost across the UK due to abortion. I think we must meet this moment with the same kind of love and compassion that drove us into this movement in the first place. And I think, certainly that, for me, speaking on a personal level, that's what drove me, both for the love for the unborn child and wanting to look out for them and protect them, but also the compassion for the many mothers that find themselves in difficult circumstances and just need a friend, need someone to look out for them and give them that alternative. And so I was just kind of looking up a few things, and then it really resonated with me, the former vice president in America, Mike Pence. I'm going to just read from my notes here. About a year and a half ago at the March for Life in America, when he said, "Life is winning through the steady advance of science that illuminates when life begins. More and more, every day, life is winning. Life is winning through the generosity of millions of adoptive families to open their hearts and homes to children in need. Life is winning through the compassion of caregivers and volunteers in crisis pregnancy centres and faith-based organisations who minister to those in need. And life is winning through the quiet counsels between mothers, daughters, grandmothers, granddaughters, between friends across kitchen tables and over college campuses. In a word, life is winning again because of all of you." That's why we know that together, we're not going to draw weary. We're not going to stop. We're going to work even harder and stop abortion in its tracks. So we're going to do this for ourselves, for our children, for our grandchildren. So thank you very much, and welcome to conference.